Carlos Tavares. He is the most well-known CEO in the world who has bipolar. It's just undiagnosed. I've reported on his many bizarre, contradictory statements that he's made over the past 12 months alone, let alone the past 2 years. Carlos on many occasions has said that EVs will be the death of the middle classes. They won't be able to afford to get around anywhere. That EVs will be almost impossible to do because they're just too expensive. They cost twice the price to build versus gasoline-powered cars. Now, obviously, the Chinese don't agree with that. They just get on with business. But interestingly, in light of what's just happened with Germany forcing the European Union to sell gasoline and diesel-powered cars after 2035, or at least cancelling the ban. They have cancelled the ban, by the way. The synthetic fuels thing is just a ruse. No one who buys one of these cars will actually use synthetic fuel in it. Anyway, that's another story. The point is here, Carlos believes it's irrelevant. It makes no difference. Carlos, for once, is actually right. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. This is an interesting story because Carlos has been an EV naysayer for a long time, but he's finally starting to actually realize some logic here. 2035 is a meaningless year because EVs are coming, they're here now, and by 2035, no one's going to care about synthetic fuels, ridiculous as they are now, ridiculous as they will be then. No one's going to be interested in diesel or gasoline-powered cars, or at least buying one in 2035, because EVs will be cheaper to buy outright, to run, and to own years before that date. Now, if you have a look at Audi's latest EV, the e-tron, there's nothing that really stands out about it, but it has a 30% more energy dense battery. 30% more energy dense. Now, this is not even using CATL's new technology or Tesla's new technology. This is just standard run-of-the-mill battery technology from standard run-of-the-mill battery suppliers. Now, Tavares has said that e-fuels will not affect the industry's EV shift. And I agree with him. The industry is already moving to EVs. Audi is already moving. Tesla is moving. Many car companies are already moving, and it's 2023. 2035 is a long way away. If cars like this Audi e-tron can improve their range by this much in a single generation now, and if there's already EVs in China that have more than 1,000 kilometers of range, which there are, and that battery technology is available to other car companies at now increasingly affordable prices as a result of the 50% decrease in the cost of lithium and the cost of battery packs going down by 20%, then what will happen is inevitable. Carlos is finally seeing some sense. Now, Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares says the industry would need to prove that e-fuels are carbon neutral in both their creation and their tailpipe emissions. Now, obviously, we all know that e-fuels are a lie. They're a myth. They're made up. They're fabricated by the fossil fuel industry to hopefully prevent gasoline from dying. Now, that may or may not happen. The reality is, though, it's a pretty clear and obvious situation here that if people were to buy cars which are only allowed to be powered by e-fuels in 2035, that there'll be nothing stopping any of those people to go and just continue to fill up their cars with diesel or petrol, gas that isn't e-fuels. What would stop them? How would you possibly police this? I mean, it's the same stuff as e-fuels. E-fuels are petrol. They are gas. They are diesel. The only difference is how they're actually made. They still create emissions. Now, Carlos said that e-fuels, which have received an exemption from policymakers in the EU's 2035 zero emissions target for new cars, will not significantly change the trajectory of the automotive industry. We are well on our way to deliver the electrification that is expected from the EU, Tavares said at Stellantis' Freedom of Mobility Forum, which the automaker hopes will be an annual event. Not that anyone even knew that it was happening. The forum addressed the question of whether safe, clean and affordable mobility will be limited to the happy few in the future because of rising costs. Well, I've just mentioned that those costs are not rising. This is just like general ridiculous media scare tactics. Don't want you to believe that the cost of everything's rising, the sky is falling, and you'll keep on reading the news and watching the news. Not actually true. EV prices are actually coming down significantly. Tavares said that Stellantis' decisions regarding electrification in the coming years were made in 2014-15, soon after he became CEO of PSA Group, which merged with Fiat Chrysler Automobiles in 2021 to form Stellantis. Now, I can bring up many quotes from Carlos himself showing there's no way in hell that he made the decisions in 2014-15 for the next 15 years for Stellantis. That is utterly nonsensical. In fact, his mind seems to change with the wind. So, yeah, I don't think that's true. Now, the EU, though, has agreed to a demand from Germany and other countries to allow cars that run on e-fuels to be sold after 2035, when all new cars must be carbon neutral. E-fuels can be processed from carbon dioxide with sustainable energy sources, although critics say the process is very, very expensive, which it is. They cost 6 times more than gasoline and diverts energy needed for other uses. A lot of energy is needed to manufacture e-fuels, and the thing is, when you put them back into a car, well, they burn in exactly the same way that petrol and gasoline burns today. I think e-fuels will be another technology direction that is going to be developed, Tavares said. The industry will have to demonstrate that they are carbon neutral, which they can't, from the capturing of carbon on one side and the emissions of carbon from the engine on the other. But cheaper EVs will change the equation. He talked about the need for EVs to become lighter, which will happen if legislators support charging infrastructure as well as if battery chemistry changes, and it is. This would mean smaller batteries and less weight, thus lower costs. Now keep in mind, platforms, when they become EV only, they almost always become lighter. Tesla's platform is lighter than anyone else's. That's a fact. And yes, battery packs will definitely get smaller as the energy density of battery packs increases. That's exactly what's happening, in fact. So smaller batteries and less weight, therefore lower costs, are the future of the industry. Now, Tesla's new LFP batteries, which are about to come out within the next few months, they're not that different to the old ones. They're 10% more energy dense. But there are actually new lithium batteries that CATL, Tesla's biggest battery supplier, have introduced to the industry recently. And those batteries are actually 20% more energy dense and will probably be used in Tesla cars within the next 6 to 7 months. Will Tesla simply make bigger battery packs? Will Tesla simply make the same car with the same size battery packs, giving you an extra 20% range? Probably not. It's more likely that they'll make the batteries smaller, making the cars more efficient and cheaper to produce. Now, Tavares said the affordability question is linked to the cost of raw materials, adding that future battery chemistries and materials could change significantly. One of the most important ways to make clean mobility affordable is to make EVs lighter, which means finding better battery chemistries, using alternative materials, and having a public infrastructure that supports shorter range, Tavares said. If the range is smaller, the weight is smaller. If the weight is smaller, the cost is smaller. Well, that's all true. I don't know that Carlos himself actually pays all that much attention to all the new technology in the battery industry. Based on his public statements, he doesn't appear to. But there is a raft of new technologies coming out. One of the things reducing the cost of batteries right now, not only has lithium cost fallen by 50% in the last few months alone, but the advent of sodium-ion batteries and new lithium-sodium hybrid batteries will continue to drive costs down significantly over the next few years. Policies should not be a weapon, he said. Stellantis initiated the Mobility Forum after leaving the European auto lobbying group ACEA last year. The forum brought together 6 experts from around the world to debate the affordability question, although it touched on issues of equality of opportunity, regional differences, and the need to ensure that accessible mobility was gender neutral. But the main takeaway from the forum was that EV deployment and adoption is an unstoppable force now. It's sort of like somebody dislodged a huge boulder from the top of a hill, and trying to stop that boulder is impossible. The European Union's move to allow the sale of so-called clean fuels in 2035 will make zero difference. That in itself will do nothing to stop that boulder. The electric revolution is so powerful now, and so many car companies have now planned to be EV only by 2035 or before, that these regulations will actually not make any difference. That's what I think. It appears as though that's what Carlos now thinks, and that's good news. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Bye-bye.